walk me through like what's on now, like what's on the table.
Sure. So there's a lot of changing parts. So effectively, what happened last week was there was an exemption for bifacial module imports into the United States. So what that meant is if you made bifacial modules outside of China, you wouldn't get hit with the AVCVD tariff or the 301 tariff. And what Trump did last week is he got rid of that. So that's why the stocks popped, because the idea was that was good for the First Solar SunPower's domestically based solar power manufacturers, but we don't think it is.
Why not?
Okay, so the reason why we don't think it is because a lot of the Chinese producers on the June exemption, when Trump announced that in June of this year, ramped a ton of capacity, bifacial capacity outside of China. Now, while that wouldn't have been hit with the tariffs, effectively the cost to make bifacial is only about a penny more than the cost to make PERC modules. So we don't think it had an effect. It didn't have an effect then on prices, and you still have all this capacity we believe that now has been ramped outside of China, which means it still will not be impacted by the AVCVD, essentially tariffs, that's going to come into the United States imminently. U.S. prices right now, 10-cent premium to global prices. The reason is because there's not enough capacity. Capacity is being added and has been added. It's going to start hitting the U.S. market. We think it's negative.
So we see this here actually as you have module imports actually coming in as prices wind up falling. So that continues?
Yes, yes. So, but we think there's going to be a huge jump in imports imminently. So again, what happened was, think about this, right? You're a Chinese producer. June of this year, Trump announces if you make your module with bifacial technology, you're exempt from the tariffs. So what you do is it takes about, a month to 2 months to ramp a significant amount of module capacity. You ramp all this capacity outside of China. The reason why it's outside of China, there's 3 tariffs right now. If you're outside of China, you only get hit with 1. So all this capacity was ramped outside of China. It's still going to come into the U.S. Even with the 25% 201 tariff, which drops to 20% in February. Even with that tariff, you're still making a mint producing modules outside of China as a Chinese producer and shipping into the U.S.
So we fade any pop then? I mean, it looks like that's what actually the market did. And is that the suggestion? Any pop you get in these guys, you want to fade?
We think so. First Solar is contracted out through the end of 2020, essentially. So it's a stock that I think a lot of people are hiding out in. But for the SunPowers of the world, and even for the Jinko Solars who sell modules into the U.S., we think prices in the U.S. are about to come under pressure.
So is this good for anybody? Like, does anyone win in this scenario in the solar world?
The consumer, the buyer of the solar system,
but no
the guy who's...
you can't play to the upside.
Well, the companies want to keep prices high. Again, prices globally right now, 22 cents. Prices in the U.S., 45 cents. You take out the 25% tariff, you're talking high 30s in the U.S. That is a mismatch. That's something that as investors you want to go in and exploit. So as those Chinese panels come in, that 10% premium is going to come down. Again, bad for the companies, good for you and me putting solar panels on our roof.